I'm sure everyone has either heard of, came in contact with, or tried some sort of drug. Narcotics have been around since things could first start being recorded. Now, obviously, over time, narcotics have evolved into a lot more in today's day and age than it has even a couple of decades ago. Seems like soon enough that narcotics are something that the American dollar is going to be even taxed on, which is a big step for our society. So if something were so easily accessible is starting to become a popular trend, why are so many corporations and companies deciding to give out mandatory drug tests as a part of the interview process? Some companies even like to do random drug tests for their employees. In my opinion, this might not seem like such a big deal for some people, but for others, some people have legitimate excuses as to why they choose to take the drugs that they do. And some people also don't understand the stress that comes behind a drug test because these truly do get in the way of what could people's careers in life. I'm going to talk about what a drug test is and what they're used for. Also, I'm going to talk about the different kinds of drug tests that are out there. And finally, I'm going to cover what drug tests can mean for people and what they can affect. According to drugs.com, drug testing is the evaluation of urine, blood, or another type of biological sample to determine if the subject has been using the drugs or drugs in question. Drug testing is most often used when applying for employment, especially for positions that have more value to them, like federal government related jobs. Pilots, hospital workers all have a policy where you must pass a drug test in order to be hired. Nowadays, it seems as if more companies are out giving these drug tests rather than letting people live their private lives however they want. I can understand where these big companies are coming from about handing out drug tests to their employees simply because they believe that drugs are all bad for you and they don't bring anything positive to his or her life. I'm not trying to convince anyone otherwise, but there is a lot more positive side on the narcotics than what people seem to make it out to be. This can go with anything in life, but I've heard that, people, I've heard from people that you never know until you try it. I'm not trying to convince anyone to go out there and try all the drugs in the world, but hopefully that it can make people realize that the drugs that people intake isn't just for recreational purposes, but that a lot of people have a lot harder problems than what people may ever know and see. I do not have a problem with in trying to give yourself a little lighter load when coming home from work. And by doing that, some people's alternatives are drugs, which is taken away from the people because of all these drug tests that are put into place. According to the Washington Post, workplaces started drug testing more often than not when President Ronald Reagan required it for federal employees in 1986, and it peaked during the drug war of the 1990s. This war on drugs should be some of the least of our concerns in the United States. But yet the government decides to put all these new rules in place, so obviously people are going to be happy with the new memo. Some people just don't understand that it's a lot easier said than done when it comes to wanting to quit a certain type of drug, which is another reason I think that the war on drugs seems to be an ongoing issue because of how hard it is to actually quit, and which some people don't understand that. Here's a little more information on the kinds of drug tests and a little more information on drug use itself. According to DISA.com, there are many different ways which people can determine the drug of the person choice by simply getting some sort of biological sample, which could include urine, hair, oral fluid flush, breathalyzer, blood sample, and the list can go on and on and on. But those are the most popular ways in which people find drug testing to be the most successful. Also, according to DISA.com, they have made it known have possible signs of when a person has quit or is trying to go through stuff like a personality change, mood swings, anxiety, irritability, social withdrawal, and these are just a list. This is one of the other lists. I could go on and on forever. With all of these problems that are arising simply because someone can't do whatever they want or whatever they want in their free time. In this case, I'm talking about the drugs or the drug tests that have put stress in people's lives on a day-to-day basis. I just don't see how it's fair for a company or corporation to tell one of us that tell one of their workers how to live their life outside of work. It is almost as if these grown adults have to babysit as if they were kids again. If I were a full-time working job, it's probably already hard enough having to deal with the job, but with the added on stress of having to have a pass or fail rate of a drug test just makes it even worse for a person. I really think that the United States needs to reconsider about what they're doing with these drug tests, and it could really hopefully change something or the course of where we're going right now. Now to hit you all with some of the facts that I'm sure you all have been waiting to hear about. I'm sure you all have been asking how many people does this actually affect and what are the repercussions of a failed drug test. According to businessnewsdaily.com, nearly 5% of the workforce has failed some sort of drug test, and among 5% among billions of people is a lot of people. Also, to go along with that, those are just the people that have been caught in the act. I'm sure that there's a large amount of people that are really also that haven't been caught and still have to live on the day-to-day stress about whether or not that their job is going to drug test them the next day or not. Also, I'm sure many of you have heard the talk of the recreational use of marijuana, which many companies indeed drug test for, which is also something I don't understand, is that more than half of the population has had some kind of experience with marijuana. It seems like sooner or later that marijuana is going to be one of the top profiting items in America. So how are we about to make this legal and easily accessible for all Americans, but yet have major companies drug test the people that put money in their people's pockets and food on people's plates? I'm not saying that any of these type of drugs are essentially good for people, but I truly do believe that no matter man or woman, that we all have the right to do as we please with our lives. By giving out drug tests to people, it's completely strips away the little happiness that some people have, and the companies don't even know that they're doing that. Hopefully, over time, this war on drugs can all be resolved for the better interest of the people, because I know this has been going on for almost too long now to have finally not to made change about it. The war on drugs seems to be something that will be around for a while, simply because of the difference in opinion that people have on this topic. I speak for the people who have to deal with stress on a daily basis, who aren't allowed to take the edge off a little bit. I hope that I have said enough to hopefully convince you guys that drugs aren't all bad and that there is more to it than what people realize. Thank you.